From operating 40-ton punch presses that could buy you a house, to watching those jobs vanish to China. From running textile looms your grandfather worked to finding out the mill closed Friday and you're done Monday. From wielding skills passed down for generations, to being told a robot does it better. Now this is every factory job your father and grandfather worked, that no longer exists. But first, this is the Forgotten Trades Club. Jobs so obsolete, most people under 30 have never even heard of them. And when I say forgotten, I mean these careers employed millions of Americans, funded entire towns, and then disappeared practically overnight. Like the elevator operator who manually controlled lifts in every major building until automatic buttons made them extinct by the 1,960 seconds. Or the switchboard operator who connected your phone calls by hand until digital switching wiped out hundreds of thousands of jobs. We're talking ice cutters harvesting frozen lakes before refrigeration, bowling alley pin boys resetting pins manually before machines, lamplighters walking streets every evening before electricity. These weren't side gigs. These were how your great-grandfather paid rent, and they vanished because someone invented a button, a wire, or a machine that did it cheaper. And when I say forgotten, I mean forgotten. Jobs that employed hundreds of thousands but nobody under 40 remembers. Like the ice cutter who spent winters on frozen lakes sawing massive blocks to stock ice boxes. Back-breaking work in sub-zero temperatures. By the 1,920 seconds. Or the elevator operator who manually controlled lifts in every major building. You couldn't just press a button. Someone had to pull levers, time stops, announce floors. At the peak, tens of thousands worked in New York and Chicago alone. Then automatic elevators arrived. Job over. Same with switchboard operators, mostly women connecting your phone calls by hand. In the 1,940 seconds, over 350,000 of them across America. Digital switching gutted the job by the 1,980 seconds. One computer replaced 100 operators. Then there's the bowling alley pin boy, usually teenagers sitting at the end of lanes resetting pins after every roll. Dangerous too, 'cause drunk bowlers didn't wait for the kid to clear out. But in 1952, automatic pin setters arrived. Within a decade, pin boys were extinct. Or the lamplighter who walks city streets every evening lighting gas lamps with a long pole. Then, electricity happened. History books. Don't forget the typewriter repairman, a specialized trade requiring knowledge of hundreds of mechanical parts, made decent money. Until personal computers showed up in the 1,980 seconds and made typewriters about as useful as a rotary phone. Notice a pattern? Every single one got killed by a single technological leap. Not gradual. Not a slow phase-out. One invention, boom, career over. No retraining. No severance. Just unemployed. At least ice cutters didn't watch their entire factory close and move to Mexico like the next tier. 'Cause these weren't grunt work. These were careers. Welcome to the Decent Paycheck Club. Jobs paying $30,000 to $50,000 in today's money, with benefits that let you buy a house and raise a family. Your grandfather worked these for 30 years, retired with a pension, passed them to your dad. Until they weren't. Like the textile mill worker in New England. Operated massive looms in factories employing entire towns. In the 1,950 seconds and 60 seconds. Steady paychecks, union protection, health care, then NAFTA hit in the 1,990 seconds. Companies realized Mexican and Chinese workers cost a fraction of U.S. wages. Mills started closing. And, towns like Lawrence and Lowell went from thriving to ghost towns overnight. Thanks, globalization. Or the assembly line riveter in the auto industry. Post-World War II boom era. Built cars by hand, connecting metal panels with precision riveting. Around $40,000 in today's dollars. With overtime, benefits, job security, until the 1980 seconds, when robotics did the work faster, more consistently, without lunch breaks. One robot replaced 5 workers. Then there's the coal sorter, who separated coal by grade and size entirely by hand. Dangerous, filthy work, but paid decently and employed thousands across Appalachia. Mechanical sorting machines eliminated human eyes and hands by the 1970 seconds. Cheaper, faster. No complaints about black lung. The milkman delivered fresh milk in glass bottles right to your doorstep 6 days a week. Built relationships, had a route, made a modest living. Then refrigerators got bigger, supermarkets got cheaper. By the 1970 seconds, the milkman was a nostalgic memory. Same with the TV and radio repairman. When electronics were built to last and could be fixed, these guys made solid money diagnosing tube failures, replacing capacitors, required real technical knowledge. But when manufacturers realized disposable electronics made more money than repairs, the entire industry collapsed. Now you just throw it away. Here's what stings. These jobs had benefits, pensions, union contracts, health insurance for your whole family. Your grandfather didn't just work these jobs. He built a life around them, bought a 3-bedroom house on one income, sent kids to college, retired at 62 with dignity. Companies pulled the rug out anyway, not because the work disappeared, because someone else could do it cheaper. But if you think losing a decent paycheck hurts, the next tier paid real money. Jobs where your dad made $80,000 a year with full benefits and thought he was set for life, until the factory closed and moved production overseas. Time to talk about the middle-class dream builders. Jobs paying $50,000 to $80,000 in today's money, with full pensions, health care for your entire family, and retirement at 60 with dignity. These weren't just jobs. These were identities. Your grandfather was a steel worker. Your father was a steel worker. You were supposed to be a steel worker. Until the mill closed, and that generational chain broke. Like the steel worker in Pittsburgh, Youngstown, and Gary. Operated blast furnaces reaching 3,000 degrees. Poured molten steel. Built America's infrastructure. In the 1960 seconds and 70 seconds, union steelworkers made $80,000 equivalent with overtime. Pensions paying 80% of salary for life. Full health care. Bought houses, raised families, sent kids to college on a single income. Then foreign steel flooded in from Japan, South Korea, China in the 1980 seconds. U.S. Steel and Bethlehem. Steel couldn't compete with subsidized production. Mills shut down. Mini mills with newer technology needed fewer workers. By the 1990 seconds, entire cities built around steel turned into Rust Belt graveyards. Guys with 25 years got 3 months' notice. Thanks for your service. Or the railroad brakeman who manually coupled and uncoupled train cars, set brakes, signaled engineers. Dangerous work. Fall between cars, you're dead. But well-paying union jobs employing tens of thousands. Then automated couplers and air brake systems arrived in the 1970 seconds. One person in a control room replaced a crew of 5. Then there's the printing press operator. A skilled trade requiring years of apprenticeship to master typesetting, plate making, running massive offset presses. Union shops, decent pay, steady work. Desktop publishing gutted the industry in the 1990 seconds. Why pay a trained pressman when you can design and print on a computer? Entire print shops closed overnight. Same with a tool and die maker. Precision machinists building metal molds and dies for mass production. Required 5 to 10 years of training to read blueprints, operate mills and lathes, create parts accurate to thousandths of an inch. Paid like engineers, because they basically were. But CNC machines and computer-aided manufacturing automated most of the work by the 2000s. Then companies offshored the remaining jobs to China and Mexico. Here's what makes this different. These guys were skilled. You couldn't just walk in and do their job. Years of training, certifications, union cards. They weren't supposed to be replaceable, but they got replaced anyway. Not because they weren't good enough, because corporations decided quarterly profits mattered more than generational stability. Way to go, Big Steel. And these were the lucky ones. 'Cause the next tier, these jobs didn't just support families. They supported entire towns. And when those factories closed, the towns died too. Welcome to the company town graveyard. Places where one factory employed 5,000 workers in a town of 15,000 people. Where the high school was named after the plant. Where 3 generations worked the same assembly line. And then corporate headquarters decided it was cheaper to build cars in Mexico, and the entire town collapsed. Like the auto assembly worker in Flint, Michigan, or Lordstown, Ohio. Peak era, 1,960 seconds through 1,980 seconds. General Motors and Ford employed hundreds of thousands of UAW workers. These weren't just good jobs. These were great jobs. $90,000 a year in today's money, with overtime, full health care, profit-sharing bonuses, pensions paying for life. You could buy a house at 25, raise 4 kids on one income, take family vacations, retire at 55. Then NAFTA passed in 1994. Companies could move production to Mexico, where workers made $3 an hour instead of $30. GM started closing plants across the Midwest. Flint went from 80,000 auto jobs in the 1,970 seconds to under 8,000 by the 2000s. Entire neighborhoods abandoned. Schools closed. Crime skyrocketed. But shareholders were happy. Or, the rubber plant worker in Akron, Ohio, once called the rubber capital of the world. Goodyear, Firestone, B.F. Goodrich, all had massive tire plants employing over 60,000 workers at peak in the 1,960 seconds. Union wages, steady work, middle-class prosperity. Then in the 1,980 seconds and 90 seconds, every major tire company closed U.S. plants and moved overseas. Goodyear to Mexico and Asia, Firestone to Latin America. By 2000, Akron had almost no tire manufacturing left. Population dropped 25%. This is corporate loyalty. Then there's the furniture factory worker in North Carolina. For decades, High Point dominated American furniture manufacturing. Thousands, crafting wood furniture, upholstery, mattresses. Good union jobs paying $50,000 to $70,000 in today's dollars. Until the 2000s, when trade deals made it cheaper to import from China and Vietnam. Over 50% of jobs vanished between 2000 and 2010. Factories closed in months. Workers with 20 years found out Friday their plant was done. Don't forget the garment factory worker in New York, Philadelphia, Los Angeles. At one point, America had over 1 million garment workers in unionized shops. Decent pay, especially for women and immigrants. Then companies realized they could pay workers in Bangladesh $2 a day instead of $15 an hour. By the 2000s, over 75% of manufacturing moved overseas. The remaining shops? Non-union sweatshops paying minimum wage. Here's what stings. These weren't automation deaths. These were deliberate relocations. Companies didn't replace workers with robots. They replaced American workers with cheaper foreign workers. Same jobs, same products. Just somewhere else where labor was dirt cheap and regulations didn't exist. Guys who did everything right showed up for 30 years, never missed shifts, raised families, paid mortgages, got betrayed. Companies pocketed savings. Executives got bonuses. Workers got unemployment and foreclosure notices. This is why your hometown looks abandoned. Why Main Street is boarded up. Why your dad's best friend who worked at the plant for 25 years now drives for Uber. At least those jobs were understood. This next tier? Jobs so specialized, so technical, everyone thought they were irreplaceable. Turns out, nothing's irreplaceable. Time to talk about the master craftsman tier. Jobs requiring 5 to 10-year apprenticeships. Technical mastery most people couldn't achieve in a lifetime. Skills passed down through generations. These weren't jobs. These were callings. Your grandfather spent a decade learning, became a master, took pride in his work, then watched it become worthless overnight. Like the industrial glassblower handcrafting scientific glassware, laboratory equipment, cathode ray tubes for televisions, required years to master heating glass to exact temperatures, shaping with breath and tools, creating complex apparatus that couldn't be mass-produced, made serious money, equivalent to $100,000 a year, working in specialized shops. Then automated glass molding arrived in the 1,980 seconds. Chinese manufacturers pumped out cheap alternatives. Domestic shops closed. A trade existing since ancient times, gone in a generation. Or the locomotive engineer from the steam era. Operating a steam locomotive wasn't like driving a car. You needed thermodynamics knowledge, coal consumption management, steam pressure regulation, track signal reading, crew coordination. Training took years. Engineers were respected, well-paid professionals keeping America's rail system running. Then diesel-electric engines arrived in the 1,950 seconds and 60 seconds. Simpler to operate, more efficient, fewer crew members needed. Suddenly you didn't need a master engineer, just someone who could read a manual. Then there's the linotype operator running massive typesetting machines. These were mechanical marvels, keyboards casting entire lines of metal type. Operating one required a 5-year apprenticeship. Memorize keyboard layouts. Understand spacing and leading. Maintain complex machinery with thousands of moving parts. Union linotype operators in major cities made $100,000 plus equivalent per year. Desktop publishing destroyed them in about a decade. By the mid-1990 seconds, you could set type on a computer in minutes that used to take hours. The machines got scrapped for metal. The operators got scrapped for younger workers who knew software. Thousands who'd spent entire careers mastering a trade watched it become obsolete before retirement. Same with the pattern maker creating wooden and metal patterns for metal casting in foundries. Required incredible precision, blueprint reading ability, understanding how metal shrinks when it cools. Years of hands-on experience. These guys were artists and engineers combined. But CAD software and 3D printing eliminated the need for physical patterns. Design it on a computer. Print it. Cast it. No human expertise required. Pattern shops operating for 50 years closed in the 2000s. Don't forget the film projectionist from the Union era. Before digital cinema, running a theater required serious skill. Projectionists threaded massive 35mm film reels, synchronized multiple projectors for seamless shows, maintained expensive equipment, fixed problems when film broke. Union projectionists in major cities made $70,000 to $90,000 in today's dollars. No threading. No reels. No expertise. Unions collapsed. The job became minimum wage button pushing. Here's what's tragic. These people were proud of their skills. They'd spent years, sometimes decades, becoming masters. You couldn't learn this from a YouTube video. You couldn't fake it. These were real, hard-earned abilities, commanding respect. And technology made all that expertise worthless in months, not years. Months. 10,000 hours of practice, gone. Skills passed father to son, obsolete. Pride, erased. Thanks, computers, you really improved everything. But if losing mastery hurts, imagine losing a job where the danger itself made you valuable. Where you got paid more because the work might kill you, and then watching machines do it safer, faster, cheaper. Welcome to the high-risk, high-reward club. Jobs where you made $100,000 to $120,000 in today's money because there was a real chance the work would kill you. Your grandfather accepted the danger because it fed his family, sent kids to college, built a future. Then, safety improvements and automation eliminated the human element entirely. Turns out you can save lives and destroy livelihoods at the same time. like the deep shaft coal miner in Appalachia and Wyoming, descended thousands of feet underground into pitch-black tunnels, breathing coal dust, risking cave-ins, explosions, black lung disease killing half your co-workers before 60. But union coal miners in the 1,960 seconds and 70 seconds made $100,000 plus equivalent per year, with benefits, premium pay, for risking your life daily. Then mechanized longwall mining arrived. Natural gas became cheaper. Environmental regulations pushed away from coal. Mining employment dropped 60% between 1980 and 2020. Deep shaft jobs requiring human crews? Almost completely gone. Or the asbestos worker insulating pipes, ships, buildings with miracle fireproofing that also gave you mesothelioma. Companies knew it was deadly, but kept workers in the dark for decades. Premium pay because the work was brutal, installing insulation in confined spaces, extreme heat, physical exhaustion. Then, in the 1,970 seconds and 80 seconds, asbestos bans hit after lawsuits exposed the cancer epidemic. Overnight, an entire trade vanished. Workers got sick. Companies got sued. Jobs disappeared. Then there's the steel mill scarfer, removing surface defects from hot steel using torches and grinders. Stand next to molten steel, temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees. Sparks flying. Toxic fumes everywhere. Deafening noise. One mistake, and you're burned, crushed, dead. But scarfers made serious money because few could handle it. Robotic scarfing systems eliminated nearly all human scarfers by the 2000s. Safer for workers, sure, but also unemployed workers. Robots don't need paychecks. Don't forget the industrial sandblaster cleaning metal surfaces by blasting with high-pressure sand. Required heavy protective gear because silica dust causes silicosis, a lung disease slowly suffocating you. Premium wages for accepting that risk. But automated blasting systems and safer alternatives, like water jetting, replaced human sandblasters starting in the 1,990 seconds. Better for health. Devastating for employment. Or the longshoremen from the pre-containerization era hand-loading cargo ships. Back-breaking, dangerous work, unloading individual crates and barrels with cranes and muscle. Fall into the hold crushed by cargo. Die on the docks. But longshoremen had the strongest unions in America, made top-tier wages, $90,000 to $110,000 equivalent today. Then shipping containers arrived in the 1,960 seconds and 70 seconds. Massive standardized boxes that cranes moved with minimal human labor. One container ship with a small crew replaced what used to require hundreds. Dock employment dropped over 80%. Here's the moral complexity nobody wants to talk about. These jobs were killing people. Black lung, mesothelioma, silicosis, industrial accidents. Thousands died doing these jobs. Safety improvements saved lives. Automation reduced injuries to nearly zero, but it also eliminated the livelihoods of men who had no other options. Your grandfather KNEW coal mining could kill him. He did it anyway, because it paid enough to give his kids a better life. Now the mines are automated or closed. His sacrifice is meaningless. His expertise is worthless. He's unemployed at 55 with black lung and no pension because the company went bankrupt. We're safer now. Objectively, quantifiably safer. Fewer workers die in industrial accidents than ever before. But those workers who would have taken the risk, they're delivering food for DoorDash, making $15 an hour with no benefits. Progress saved lives. Progress destroyed the middle class. Both things are true. Both things hurt. But if there's one tier above danger pay, one level above skill and sacrifice, it's legend status. Jobs so iconic that losing them feels like losing American identity itself. Welcome to the American legend tier. Jobs that didn't just pay bills, they defined who we were as a country. When you said, "I work at the Ford plant," or "I'm a steel worker in Pittsburgh," people KNEW what that meant. stability, pride, the American dream actually working. These jobs proved you could work 40 hours a week, support a family on one income, take vacations, retire with dignity. The deal was simple. Work hard, play by the rules, get rewarded. And for a few golden decades, that deal held. Like the Detroit auto worker during the Big Three era. 1,950 seconds through 1,970 seconds. Building cars for General Motors, Ford, or Chrysler wasn't just a job. It was the job. Peak employment hit over 300,000 UAW workers in Detroit alone, making $110,000 equivalent per year. With overtime, shift differentials, profit-sharing bonuses, full healthcare for your entire family, pensions paying 80% of salary for life, job security so strong you could plan your entire future around it. Your grandfather could walk into a Ford plant at 18, work the line for 30 years, retire at 55 with enough money to buy a lake house. On a single income, he bought a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs, raised 4 kids, sent them to college, took family vacations, never worried about medical bills. That was normal. That was the expectation. Then automation and foreign competition gutted the industry. Robots replaced assembly workers starting in the 1,980 seconds. Japanese automakers built more efficient cars with fewer workers. NAFTA let companies move production to Mexico, where labor cost a fraction. The plants that remain are shells. The jobs that still exist don't come with the same benefits, security, promise, or the Pittsburgh steelworker building America's infrastructure from the 1,940 seconds through 1,970 seconds. Bridges, skyscrapers, railroads, ships, all made from steel, forged in Pittsburgh, Youngstown, Gary, Bethlehem. At peak, the U.S. Steel Belt employed over 650,000 workers in unionized mills, making $100,000 plus equivalent annually. These guys had pride. They built the Golden Gate Bridge, the Empire State Building. They won World War II, producing more steel than any nation in history. Companies threw them away for quarterly earnings. Foreign steel dumping, mini-mill technology, corporate greed destroyed the industry in 2 decades. By the 2000s, most legendary steel mills were abandoned ruins. Workers who'd given 30 years got pink slips and no pensions because companies declared bankruptcy. Thanks for building America, here's nothing. Then there's the Bell System telephone linemen climbing poles and connecting America's communication network. Before the AT&T breakup in 1984, working for Ma Bell meant job security for life. Linemen made solid wages, had excellent benefits, knew their company would take care of them until retirement. Then deregulation shattered the monopoly. Fiber optics reduced infrastructure needs. Wireless technology eliminated thousands of positions. Employment dropped over 70%. The Bell System promise of lifetime employment died overnight. This was the deal, and it worked. Your grandfather clocked in at 7 a.m., did his job, clocked out at 3:30, came home to a family he could support, slept well knowing tomorrow would be the same. He didn't need gig work. He didn't need to worry about healthcare bankrupting him. One job, one income. Now, you've got a 401k with company match if you're lucky. No pension. Healthcare tied to employment that could end tomorrow. At-will employment means you can be fired for any reason. And companies call this progress. Your grandfather had security. You have uncertainty. That's the trade we made. That's what we lost when these legendary jobs disappeared. All right. Enough crying over lost paychecks. You know what's really fascinating? Not the jobs that vanished, but the absolutely insane things workers had to do just to survive them. 'Cause if you think losing your factory job is depressing, try working in a factory where losing your fingers was just part of the job description. From coal miners bringing canaries into tunnels because if the bird dropped dead, you had 30 seconds to evacuate before poisonous gas killed everyone, to textile workers getting fingers mangled in looms, so often it was called mill hand and considered totally normal, to steel workers going permanently deaf from furnace roar because hearing protection wasn't invented. Yet these jobs didn't just pay well, they destroyed you. Radium dial painters in the 1920 seconds licking brushes coated with radioactive paint to get a fine point for watch faces. The radium girls literally glowed in the dark at night, then died horribly of cancer. Companies knew, said nothing. Asbestos workers inhaling microscopic fibers for decades, while management covered up studies proving it caused mesothelioma. Meatpackers losing fingers to saws so regularly that Upton Sinclair wrote an entire best-selling novel about the nightmare. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire in 1911, where 146 garment workers burned alive or jumped to their deaths because owners locked the exit doors to prevent workers from taking unauthorized bathroom breaks. No OSHA, no safety regulations, no workers' compensation. Just vibes, missing limbs, and early graves. Factories in the 1920 seconds had injury rates of 25% annually. 1 in 4 workers got hurt every year. Lost fingers, crushed hands, chemical burns, falls from heights. And they showed up the next day anyway because they needed the paycheck and there was always another desperate guy waiting to take the job if you complained. So how did coal miners not die every single day underground? Why did companies wait until the 1970 seconds to give steel workers basic ear protection? What happened to all those radium girls who thought painting watch dials was a fun, well-paying job? How many fingers did the average textile worker lose before they retired? When did OSHA finally show up and start fining companies into actually caring about whether workers survived their shifts? From safety violations that would get a company shut down instantly today, to workplace accidents so gruesome they're still shown in modern safety training videos as what not to do. These factories were absolute nightmares. And if you want to know just how bad working conditions really were before unions and regulations forced companies to stop treating workers like disposable equipment, click this video right here and find out why your great-grandfather making it to 50 was genuinely impressive.